Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The episode number 25. Usury Prohibition number 3. In the last two episodes, we explained what is usury and how is the usury prohibition being described by the Quranic text. And we emphasize that there is two types of usury. The usury before revelation and the usury after revelation. And the Quranic text mentions just one word, although it's written differently, is riba, usury. The alternative word used these days in interest. Interest is usury or monetary usury. When the Prophet ﷺ introduced another type of usury, that's why the people was a bit confused. Some people say, Sayyidina Umar say, Ayat al-Riba, the text of usury, came latest. And the Prophet ﷺ hasn't explained it enough for us, which is complete lie. As this word cannot come from Umar ibn al-Khattab, Sayyidina Umar. Never. The Prophet ﷺ has explained it more than anything else, or as anything else. And by the ayah, we all say, في سورة المائدة, آية 3, اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. Nobody can claim that the Prophet ﷺ hasn't explained anything from religion side or from the religion view. Then that qawl, just people try to find an excuse. Anyway, it happened, Bilal came to the Prophet with some nice dates. And the Prophet ﷺ liked the dates and asked Bilal, is all your dates is nice like this? He said, no. I had the bad dates, by the meaning, not as good, and sold it for less quantity for the dates I given you now, for a nice date. Then he exchanged date with different quantity. One was bad quantity or not as good quantity for a very good quantity to give the Prophet ﷺ. And that's a transaction. And the Prophet say, that's the exact usury. And that took the society at that time by surprise. That we don't know usually occur with dates trade. And that's why make the usury subject is a bit confusion. But leaving that aside, but what we talked about was the monetary usury, money for money, loan usury, that very clear. And this is what the common usury is. But to complete the subject, the Prophet ﷺ had added another items which usually transaction occur from this transaction. What is this item? It's 6 items, 2 groups. The first group is gold and silver, which represent money, represent thaman. This is the first group, gold and silver, representing money. when at that time, when you say gold and silver, you means thaman, you means money. And the general hadith included 6 items. Those one group is gold and silver. The second group is wheat, barley as a grains, and salt, something salty, and dates, something sweet. Then the 6 items is one group gold and silver, wheat, barley, salt, dates. It's all come in one hadith. Say, gold for gold, silver for silver, wheat for wheat, barley for barley, dates for dates. 6 items. Condition is, if you trade gold for gold, or silver for silver, or any of the other 4 items, the same item, dates for dates, salt for salt, wheat for wheat, barley for barley. Those 6 items, if you trade the same dates, you get 2 conditions. Quantity or weight has to be the same. And transaction has to be in the same time. هاء بهاء سواء بسواء. We'll repeat again. 6 items: gold and silver, wheat, barley, salt, and dates. Those 6 items have two group of conditions. The first group is if you trade or transact the same time, gold for gold, silver for silver, wheat for wheat, barley for barley, salt for salt, or dates for dates. It has to be the same quantity or volume or weight, exactly the same. And transaction has to be in the same time. If you give me the dates, I gave you the dates. That's one condition when you trade the same item. But if the item differs within the 6 items, like gold for silver, or date for salt, or wheat for barley, you go only one condition. Has to be paid in the same spot. هائم بها. You give me and you take. And some people say, what should I do? Gold for gold is the same volume in the same time. Say, if you don't find a reason, don't do it. Maybe the prohibition here to prevent you doing it. And we will explain more when you come to the transaction map theory at the end. You say, why shouldn't do it? Just give an example. I said gold for gold or silver for silver means you transact money. Sometimes you go for exchange. You have a £5, you want to have £5 coins. You go give them 1 5 or paper £5, and you want 5 coins. Here the condition apply to restrict the transaction for sarf, for exchange. This is the aim for it. If you wanted to go and exchange 5 for 5 coins, or £20 for 4 fives, you have to give him 20, you take 20. And the same time you give him the 20, you have to take the 4 fives. This is just to explain. There's more to it in the TMT, or transaction math theory, at the end. Then, the saying that Umar ibn Khattab say the Prophet hasn't explained that, it's a lie. It's not true. It's an excuse. The usury, the main type of usury is the monetary one, is money for money. Is what do you call it? The interest today. This is different type of what the Prophet ﷺ had, which is called riba al-fadl. Then we have riba al-qurud. Some people call it riba al-Quran. I don't like that, because the Quran is only one riba, and prohibition is very clear. And the other one, which is riba al-fadl, which is within the 6 item. People say riba sunnah, I don't like that either. But this is called riba al-fadl. And riba al-fadl has 2 types. Riba al-nisa and riba al-tafadul. Then that's called riba al-biyu'a, riba al-fadl wa riba al-nisa. Wa riba al-qurud, riba al-diyun. Never mind about those different types, but we have the 2 group, which is dealing with the money in one group, in gold and silver, and the other 4 item, which is wheat and barley, salt and dates. Maybe somebody who's not really familiar with the subject or new to the subject say, is only the 6 item, or we can increase that? It's a big subject of the fiqh. Some people make qiyas, related other items to the 6 items or 4 items. Some people say gold and silver represent money, and al-'illah is a thamaniyya. I call it priceness, although there is no such word in English, but I introduced this word to explain priceness. Anybody translate it, we call it thamaniyya. Then the element in gold and silver is the unsur al-thamaniyya. And in the 'illah, for the other 6 item, might be thamaniyya, might be something else. You can, some fuqaha wa ulama has added some other items in comparison with the 6 items. It's a big subject of al-fiqh. That's not really too much concern, because these items, transaction does not exist today. But understanding is very important. You cannot say ignore those. No, you have to understand it, because there is an implication of understanding of 'illah. I have seen some scholar with saying, for example, when we come to later on, doesn't make the difference between qard al-athman from qard al-muthammanat. We borrow money as well as we borrow things. You can borrow date, you can borrow orange, you can borrow an animal. Yeah, you have to understand why, or the 'illah of the prohibition of the 6 items. you can take some of the explanation by ulama, add to it or not to add or to reduce it, to accept it or not, but you have to understand. But keeping that aside, the most important is the monetary usury, is money for money, is the debt, is the loan, is what they being called today bank interest. And this has been through all our human activity. The money in your pocket is become usury. You have to understand that. People say, how are we going to change the system? Well, the system hasn't been like that all the time. It has been for the recent 40, 50 years, fully usury system. And whoever have the power to apply it to our life is human. Like us, we are human. If he has the will to choose it, to change from good to bad, we should have the will to return to the good by having the will first. Usually is not something to take light. فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. If you go to the bank today, put your money for an interest or taking a loan for interest, remember, you enter a war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet. Nothing worse than going into war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who dare to go for war or asking for war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is very dangerous. And who think he's going to a war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and win? And why are you doing it? You say somebody else doing it, but why are you taking the consequences? At least refuse that by your heart and say by your word is bad, is haram. Then if one day, and everybody will one day, have an influence or have an authority, use that influence and use that authority to change the bad system to a good system for your own benefit, for the benefit of your generation after you, for the benefit of human. I hope I have gave you enough information to stop you dealing with usury and to make peace with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your work and bless you and bless me and bless the whole human being or to whom they work and follow his order. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.